artwork that you're looking at right now was done by Dennis Connors. And hi, I'm Mike Matassa, and this is Michele Seligman.
We're standing here in the College Art Gallery where they're displaying the alumni work of 1990.
And this is where we're hosting this month's edition of Iron New Paltz. This month's stories will cover lacrosse, safety tips on campus, living on and off campus, and a history of New Paltz.
But first, let's take a look at WNPC-TV Channel 6.
Hi, welcome to WNPC, the campus television station. I'm Josh Parker, Operations Manager.
And I'm Marilyn DePoto, Program Director. We'd like to give you a behind-the-scenes tour of what happens here at Channel 6.
WNPC-TV 6 started on the New Paltz campus in 1986, in the fall of 1986. I arrived here at New Paltz during that year, and I saw some signs. There was a few students, along with the Student Association, who wanted to start a TV station on the campus. There had been one previous years, black and white equipment, never really got off the ground or went anywhere. The Student Association, because they were serious about starting the TV station, and because they saw they had some students who were interested, hired a man to come in and be the manager of the station, to run it, to get it on the ground, and get it going. And along with that, use students and making it a student-run television station. The person that they hired was Tom Demenkoff. The first thing we started out with was with a character generator, and that was mainly to get us on the air, to get us on Channel 6 and broadcasting to the college community. And then we had gotten some VCRs and a little switcher, and it was all done by students. We'd go in, change tapes. It was all run by the students. It was very primitive, to say the least, but we were on the air, and that was within a year. From that point, we started a show called Campus Weekly, using VHS equipment and Beta equipment, and that shouldn't be mixed up with Betacam, which is very professional. Beta was just very consumer-oriented equipment.
I'm Mike Matassa.
And I'm Alexis Mariette.
And welcome to another edition of Campus Weekly. This week on Campus Weekly, we have a feature story for you from Oasis.
We have more music happenings with Pete Porto and Kelly Colgan.
We have a Greek update with Damien Tufaro and Gina DeGuardia.
And more snack tips with Eric Wiener.
We even got some sports talk with Nancy Dwyer.
And Residence Hall Life with Mitch Katz and Dave Block.
In about, I guess it was about 1988, we finally got professional industrial equipment, which is 3/4-inch equipment, which is the standards that a lot of television stations use for shooting news and shooting magazine pieces. So it's great equipment for a lot of students to learn on. So you can see over the years we've developed from starting out with VHS equipment, having nothing, and developing into a TV station.
WNPC Channel 6 has grown, but there's still work to be done.
The staff, with the guidance of the Campus Media Center Director, Lee Kobus, produces shows such as Eye on New Paltz, Now That's Music, a music video show, and WNPC-TV Headline News.
Members of the staff also program movies for broadcast and produce the annual video yearbook.
In the future, the station plans to broadcast more independent programs and specials and to have a stronger impact on the college community.
Here we are looking at another piece of artwork by Dennis Connors, and this one is called It's Better to Have Swung and Lost Than to Never Have Swung at All.
Well, you know, Mike, it's better to have experienced lacrosse than not to experience it at all. And now we'll go to Joe Muccio, where he will explain the game of lacrosse.
Here at New Paltz, we have an exciting, fast-paced sport. That sport is New Paltz Club Lacrosse. The president of the club, John McGarity, shares with us some of the finer points of the game.
Lacrosse is a game similar, which combines a few elements of mostly soccer, perhaps because it's on a field, a little bit of hockey, and strangely enough, basketball. It's played with 10 guys on a side. You have a defense, a midfield, much like soccer, which is the transition part of the game, going back and forth from defense to offense. The game also involves clearing the ball after a shot. That's termed as a clear. The whole idea behind a clear, which is another rule they've instituted this year, that you have to clear the ball out of the defensive area within 10 seconds. It speeds up the game tremendously, making it a very fast game. For a goalie, it's kind of a nightmare because it's very hard to get the ball out in 10 seconds, but it has to be done.
Once a clear is accomplished, the midfielders serve as the transition. Functioning very much like halfbacks in soccer, they run extensively throughout the game. Once the ball has been successfully moved across the midfield line, it's time for the offense to go to work. Attackmen have the job of running set offensive plays along with the help of the midfielders.
A lot of the game involves ground balls, which is a really important part of the game. Usually the team that controls ground balls, meaning the ball is on the ground and opposing teams are going for it, they try to scoop the ball up, and the team that maintains possession is usually the team that hangs onto the ball the most, and in general they get the shots off and they're the ones who score. Again, ground balls on the kind of surface that we play on, it's a lot of slop and the ball tends to get stuck in the mud. So by playing on this, we go to find a dry field. It's really a treat for our guys, and they're able to come up with the ground balls and control it. That's what we really try to concentrate on for the new guys here, the fact that they can help out with even the smallest fundamental parts of the game, the fact that they can come up with the ground balls.
Club President John McGarity now explains to us the importance of wearing the right protective equipment in lacrosse. Some of this equipment is expensive, but it is very necessary in order to play this rough and hard-driving sport.
We try to spend as much as we can on helmets because we get more guys out playing this year, and that's the most expensive part of the uniform, which runs about $80. Again, it gives you full face protection, full side protection, involves a chin strap, and also you have to play the mouthpiece, a rule which was instituted about 4 years ago. Shoulder pads that we wear are much like hockey shoulder pads. They provide upper body protection with hard plastic caps on them, and upper arm protection for when they're doing stick checking and the stick tends to ride high and hits the upper arm. It provides a good amount of protection. They're kind of light and a lot smaller than football pads, but they're adequate for lacrosse. For the arms, they have full padded arm pads, which have pads on the inside and, most importantly, on the outside and elbows. That's a major part of the game due to the stick checking involved, where sticks tend to ride up on arms or guys take shots and hit the ground, and they provide full protection for the lower portion of the arm. Another unique part is the gloves. They have wrist action, which they call them floating cuffs because the cuff is loose from the glove, and it allows a lot of wrist action for the cradling portion of the game, which is how lacrosse is played. It's similar to dribbling in basketball, only you're cradling. It maintains keeping the ball on the stick. It's done both lefty and righty. Lacrosse is an ambidextrous sport. It's not an all-righty sport like baseball or something like that. The ball is cradled and it keeps the ball in it constantly. It basically uses the principle of centrifugal force by rocking the ball back and forth. It keeps the ball in the pocket portion of the stick. They cradle both one-handed and two-handed. The best stick handlers are usually our attackmen. Generally, cradling is what keeps the ball in. It's important to do it.
Club lacrosse desperately needs help from administration. They need a trainer and a better field to play on. There's a good outlook for the future, though, and the team appreciates their increasing fan support. So come down to the games and check out Club lacrosse.
When I came out to play, I didn't even know how to play. Now I start. All you got to do is put a little time in, and you'll get good at it.
With campus crimes on the increase across the United States, campus safety has become a major issue. And Michele here did a story just on that.
Do you feel safe on campus? Here at SUNY New Paltz, campus safety has been stressed, but students feel that more precautions should be taken. Precautions such as better lighting in the parking areas or more police cars patrolling the campus. But until those precautions are taken, it's up to you, the student, to be street smart and realize that New Paltz isn't as safe as you think. Do you think the campus is safe at night?
I feel safe, yeah. No, I don't think the campus is safe at night because there are certain areas where there's not enough lighting, and also campus escort doesn't pick you up on time and takes a long time to get to you. So I really don't think it's safe at night.
Sometimes it depends on how you carry yourself. If you're going to be very loose, or if you're going to go out without double checking behind you and, you know, feeling safe about yourself. I can't really explain it well, but it's safe sometimes, depending on how you are yourself and whether you're walking with a buddy or not.
What recommendations do you have for the student body as to be safe?
To think and act as if they would in their own neighborhoods, because it's a campus. It's no different than walking in your own main street, town or village where they come from or city. There's nothing different. It's not just because some people have an idea because it's a campus, everything stops at the border of the campus and everything is tranquil and paradise, and that's not the truth. It's the exact same. It's a community. And you have your good people and you have your bad people.
Here are some helpful safety tips for you to follow. Never walk alone at night. Use well-lighted areas. Use the escort service. Know a little self-defense. Call campus police for assistance. And use common sense. What precautions do you think campus police should take to make this campus more safe at night?
Well, I think they should do more rounds. They should go around and check out the dorms more.
The lighting, they should put more lights in certain area around Bliss, especially in the library, and around Shango. Also with campus escort, I think they should beef that up. I mean, put more people on the payroll so that they can pick more people up. Use your best judgment if you're walking home alone at night, but if you don't have to, please walk with a friend.
You know, Mike, there's a lot more that the students here can do to keep safe. Like, for instance, lock your doors at night before you go to sleep and don't let strangers in the buildings.
Well, that leads us up to our next story, which is the pros and cons of living on and off campus. And here's Meg with the story.
There are many differences between living on and off campus. The experience of both can be rich and rewarding. If you are thinking of moving off campus but are not sure if it's right for you, here are some of the opinions of people who have decided to move off campus.
Living in the dorms is a little restriction of freedom and, you know, the food on campus. And plus I wasn't really getting involved with people in the dorm or in the residence hall. So, you know, I'd rather live off campus.
I like picking my own food and going anywhere at any time. Just privacy and independence.
You have your own things. You don't have to worry about RAs or any of that stuff, and it's just a lot more convenient. You do have to do your own laundry still, and you know, your own cooking and cleaning, but you know, you make do, and I don't know, I like it a lot better, a lot more freedom. You have a couch and everything, you know, it's a lot different than a room. It's a lot more convenient.
Although many students enjoy living off campus, some find that there are disadvantages.
There's really only one disadvantage about living off campus, and that's probably dishes, because, you know, you got to cook your own dinner. It's not like you have Hasbrook to go to and to do your dishes for you, because they pile up and stuff. But basically, it's really convenient, because it's comfort of your own home. You have your phone, you have, you know, your couch, your cable, HBO, MTV, you know, all the things that you would want in your own home.
You have to be really good at budgeting your money, and you have to know your roommates pretty well before you move in with them.
I guess the one disadvantage is in the dorms, you have a lot more of your friends are much closer. You know, in my house there's only, you know, several people, and you know, I don't even have a phone in my room as of yet, but there's just a lot more social activity.
I'd say you have to go out of your way to find out what's going on campus. Everything's not readily accessible to you.
Yeah, they really don't mail things home and tell you what's going on. You have to walk through the buildings, look at the billboards. look at bulletins.
Those students who have moved off campus have discovered how much fun and also how difficult it can be. Yet some students feel that living in the residence halls has advantages over off-campus life.
As a freshman, I prefer on campus because, you know, you have a lot of responsibilities and problems.
I like being close to classes, the proximity to being not having to go very far.
There's so much more to the school than just classes and tests and homework. I mean, there's a life here, and I think that the people living in town miss out on that a lot.
One of the inherent benefits is the fact that there is a staff in the residence hall. If a student is in crisis, there are people who will recognize that and are there to assist. If a student is confused and doesn't know where to turn in order to get information, there's a staff right there in the building who can either provide the answers or give that student some direction as to where to go to find the answers. You just don't have advocacy like that living in apartments or off-campus housing.
If you live on campus, you are definitely in touch with college. Definitely.
Here are some of the reasons why students want to move off campus.
I don't like the rat on campus. The food sucks.
On campus costs so much. The fire alarms, the food is overpriced, and you really don't have that much privacy.
Only 2.5 months we have passed our semester, but already in Dale Hall there has been at least 7 to 8 fire alarms. And I had a midterm the next morning, and the fire alarm was at night at 4 something, and I went to sleep very late that night, around 2. So it really bothered me a lot. And
I hate the fire drills, and I want to let everybody know right now that we only have one planned one, and all the other fire alarms that you hear are pulled. And I just think it's a real nuisance, and that's probably the biggest fault in residence hall life is the fire alarms, because people, you know, just are inconsiderate.
So there you have it. The pros and cons of living on and off campus. I suppose the only thing left to tell you is why they're called residence halls and not dorms.
Dorm is a place where you hang your clothes, you sleep, maybe you eat in the dining hall, and that's it. You know, maybe you study there, maybe you don't. In a residence hall, we really have all the components of a community. There is, and that is the difference, the community development. There are staff who provide programs so that you can learn to get along better with the people in your community, so that you can learn who the people in your community are, so that you can feel safer in that environment. We provide programs to assist you outside of the residence hall and outside in the real world.
Theater shows, concerts,
art gallery. You know, let's not forget about the bicycling club.
Hey!
Yeah.
The dances, we've got lots of the pictures of dances.
I
like that one.
kind of like this. It's kind of...
That's ugly. It's like things you see every day.
That's not ugly. We have a lot of pictures of
action.
Team.
We have a
Definitely.
lot of action.
Well, sports is action.
Just people out, just people outside going nuts, playing.
Just people just doing it.
The town of New Paltz has a lot of history behind it, and one of its most popular aspects of its history is Huguenot Street, which is the oldest street in America with its original houses.
And here's Joe to tell you more about the history of New Paltz.
Many people may not know it, but New Paltz isn't just a college town. It has strong historical roots that can be traced as far back as 1678. The town was founded by French Huguenot settlers after being exiled from their native France. The homes and ways of life of the Huguenot settlers have been collectively preserved by the Huguenot Historical Society and the Historical and Genealogical Collection located in the Elting Library on Main Street. Coordinator and town historian Mrs. Irene Martin preserves the memories, pictures, and historical information that make up the foundation of New Paltz.
This library has a large collection of local history, which traces the history of New Paltz back 300 years ago to this century, to this very day in 1990. Our genealogical collection is probably one of the best in Ulster County. People come here from all over the United States to trace their ancestors, many of whom were related to the early French and Dutch settlers of New Paltz. The French Huguenots, or other, you could call them French Protestants, came here they left France actually between 1644 and 1655, and they arrived in America between about 1660 and 1675. They settled first in Wiltwyck, Kingston, and then they went to Hurley, which is just outside Kingston, and they moved in about 1678 to New Paltz. And you might like to know who those 12 patentees were who settled New Paltz. They were the Du Bois family, Abraham and Isaac Du Bois, Christian and Pierre Dio, Abraham and Jean Hasbrook, Andreas and Simon Lefevre, Louis Bevere, Anthony Crispell, and Hugo Freire. In the spring of 1678, they, with their families and all their belongings, moved down the valley to New Paltz and built their stone houses here. Their stone houses still stand on Huguenot Street, as sturdy as they were 300 years ago. And many people, relatives of those early Huguenots, still come to New Paltz every single summer to visit these homes of their ancestors. New Paltz was comprised of 39,000 acres when the Huguenots got the land in 1678. Today, New Paltz is a much smaller area than it was then.
The village of New Paltz consisted of Huguenot Street for almost 2 centuries. It wasn't until the 1850s that the village expanded and started to erect buildings on what is now Main Street. Mrs. Martin shares with us some interesting facts about the development of some of these structures.
One of the buildings that was built in 1853 was the Huguenot Bank, which is now Barclays Bank, on the corner of Main and Plattekill. And that bank stood as a frame building until 1935, when it was torn down and rebuilt at the present site, which is a stone building. At one time, in the 20s or 30s, this bank printed its own money.
Along with preserving some of the currency of the period, the collection also retains several editions of the New Paltz Times, which was a daily publication. The paper has since closed down. It is interesting to see some of the structures that originally existed in places that have become heavily frequented in New Paltz, such as the Hotel Sheds, which was turned into an open-air dance hall on the land that is now P&G's. Other sites include the old Thesis Bar, which was Harp's Harness Store. That was built in 1887 on 50 Main Street and ironically burnt down in 1987 and then became Chez Joey's Restaurant. 2 more New Paltz institutions, Wings and Things, and the adjoining pizza place, were in buildings that housed a stove shop and an office. New Paltz is rich in its heritage and its culture. It was founded on a premise of starting a new life and achieving independence. Today, the community thrives and is a reflection on its triumphant past.
And that was this month's edition of Eye on New Paltz.
And now we'll leave you with some more alumni artwork from the College Art Gallery located at McKenna Theater.